Well, would you look at that?
Absolutely.
Joining us now is my
Yeah.
friend Andrew Lawton. Andrew's the senior journalist at True North and best-selling author of The Freedom Convoy. Andrew, what a pleasure to have you on the show with us today. Before we get into some of the nitty-gritty details of some of the crazy, crazy things we saw today, like those texts between senior government bureaucrats, what was your big takeaway from today? Do you like Slowly?
I
Do you not like him? I can't decide.
It's funny you mentioned that because I think a lot of people going into it thought that he was going to be the guy that was the convoy favorite as far as Ottawa police chiefs go. And certainly I think there's reason to believe that because for the first 2.5 weeks of their protest, he was the guy that basically let the protest go. But in his messaging, he's had very different approaches. I mean, Paul Wells in his column last week said that he was very much the enforcer. And I think it was that he just didn't feel he had the resources to do it. So I think it's a bit mixed. But I also think that if you just take the convoy out of the equation, here was a guy that was very much thrown under the bus when it became convenient to do so. He had been the favorite on all of these woke diversity, challenging systemic racism, challenging sexual assault and systemic misogyny, he said. And then the second he didn't go along with what they wanted, he was out.
Yeah, that's true. He did testify to being directly undermined and I think sabotaged, quite frankly, by his two deputies, Ferguson and Bell. Bell ending up being his successor when they started appointing people to be I guess, the event commander, they called it, of the convoy without even telling him. As early as February 3rd, the like backroom shenanigans started, and William brings it up all the time. I've run out of patience with Slowly, but he does his best to find some empathy for him, saying like, he was getting pressure from all angles. He was getting pressure from the public who lived in and around the convoy. I don't think the public in general to bust some heads. He was getting pressure from public safety for a quick resolution to meet the political goals of the government. Being undermined by people all around him. So I think he was really in a pressure cooker. And I think he started to react probably poorly because we saw testimony from Superintendent Abrams of the OPP that he got there and they were suggesting, the OPS were suggesting, let's do some snatch and grabs. And he said, we're not doing any of that until we get legal advice. And that was coming from Chief Slowly at the time.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I had a story that I broke a couple of days ago that was an audio recording of a call between convoy organizers and one of the OPP liaisons. And it was a call that was quite exceptional because he was apologizing for what the Ottawa Police Service had done with that fuel rate at Coventry and saying, we've just decided as OPP, we're bowing out. We can't deal with them. And he said they felt betrayed by Ottawa police. But it was interesting because Slowly and the OPP Commissioner Carrick, it seemed like we're very, very tight. And the issue that former Chief Slowly kept raising today was Brenda Lucki, the RCMP Commissioner. And I think I feel like that meme with like the guy that's like just trying to weave all of these strings together and the chalkboard, like the conspiracy theorists. But
I know.
we know that Brenda Lucki has shilled for the Liberals and has been very much an agent of the Liberal government's agenda. And in that context, not even convoy related, I wonder what's going to come out further in this inquiry when you find out that it was the RCMP that seemed like the weak link, Slowly felt anyway, as far as that unity and the lack of support for him.
Yeah, and I wonder if Brenda Lucki is going to be exposed to be playing all sides of the fence here, because she's said, at least, you've seen some of these phone call readouts and in internal communications where she says, it's sort of the last thing that they were even thinking of at the time was the Emergencies Act. She was saying, like, let's get more tow trucks. We've got other tools in the toolbox, I think is what she said. And I wonder what she was taking back to cabinet from her conversations with Slowly. Was she saying one thing to Slowly, other things to cabinet, and Slowly again is caught flat-footed and just forced to react?
Yeah, and I mean, there's no greater tool in the toolbox than Marco Mendicino. And Marco Mendicino repeatedly said that, like, everyone in law enforcement, like the janitor at Ottawa Police Headquarters asked for the Emergencies Act. They all wanted it. And then all of them came out systematically and said, no, we didn't. And the one thing that was interesting that came up today that I found fascinating was that Bill Blair told Commission Counsel, it sounded like, in their interview with him, that Ottawa Police couldn't ask for officers from the RCMP unless they had gone through the OPP first. And Peter Slowly said, that wasn't his attitude when he was the chief of Toronto Police. Like, I'm aware of no provisions in law that require that. So it does see, and then Bill Blair in other comments was saying the opposite. So it seems like, again, there was some federal government RCMP overlap there that hasn't quite been fully explored and exposed in the commission.